All right, so we're going to take a look at Utah State, the Aggies. Actually, it's going to be taking a second look at them. A couple days ago, um, published a video on collegelayup.com and also, I guess, on the YouTube channel. And I would say maybe go and watch that if you're going to watch this, only because that kind of is a precursor, if you will, and we go over a lot of things about Utah State that we're not going to go over now, like the general structure of the team, the personnel, the things that they do well, the things that they potentially would struggle with. And, we had mentioned that their next game was against San Diego State, and of course, both were at the top of the standings, and that's not the point of this. But after them playing San Diego State, a game in which they lost this game pretty single-handedly. Pretty decidedly. They were down by 20 most of the second half, and there was some concerns that we kind of addressed last time, and I actually wrote down a couple notes here so I can just make sure that I communicate them in a way that is appropriate. And I guess in no specific order of the concerns. Their number one, their offensive sets or lack thereof. Like, they don't have too much offense that they go into. It's more about relying on steals and deflections in transition. We mentioned last time that they're top 20 team in turnover percentage, but they're actually more like a top 5 team because there's only a 1% difference between the top, number 5 and number 20 or 15, wherever they were. So they're like a really good team turning teams over. But we also mentioned that they struggle defensively against teams that are maybe more athletic or long, and San Diego State certainly is, and that kind of did play out, right? Because our last video, we saw Utah State beat Davidson by 34. That was a game that I was at. So I was able to kind of speak on it from that perspective. But then we also took a look at when they lost to Nevada recently, Utah State, and we attributed some of their struggles to just the physical nature of Nevada's team with their length and athleticism. And then, San Diego State kind of reinforced that. So we're going to take a look. Their offensive execution, a little shaky. Their ability to hang defensively with teams that are more athletic and long is a bit concerning. And when I say hang defensively, I mean kind of get bodied on drives, kind of get bodied inside a little bit so they can't secure position defensively. And then also, it's interesting to say, for a team that played so hard like Utah State did, they actually got beat on a lot of box outs, and their defensive awareness wasn't really there. So even though they play hard and they play fast and aggressive and in your face, they just straight up had a couple mental lapses, which are really obvious on film. One positive for Utah State was Admin Elamine, a freshman who's come a long way. We briefly covered him in the last video. He was only playing 5, 7, 8, 9 minutes the first 10, 15 games of the season, and now lately he's been starting and playing upwards of 20, 30 minutes. He did some positive things, made some good shots in transition, and he had a couple of nice moments, but he also had moments where he showed his youth, his inexperience, especially defensively. Like in their zone, we'll see he just had a couple lapses, or there was some communication breakdown that he was involved in. Not saying he was the cause of it, but he was certainly involved in it, and that was a bit troubling. In terms of San Diego State, I have seen them play live once this year. I saw them play on a neutral court in Las Vegas when they lost to Michigan. I honestly didn't get a great read of them that game. It was very hard for me to kind of understand what type of team I was looking at. They have a lot of experienced players all over the roster, but that specific game just didn't yield much for me, or I couldn't glean much from that. So we're going to take a look at this game. Again, it's just going to show us maybe what Utah State would struggle against, and I'm not sure if they have any answers for the things they struggle against, but they also did some good things. So maybe we'll get, and we'll take a look at San Diego State along the way as well, perhaps in a less focused way. So let's see. So this is just one of the few plays, or one of the plays I was referring to, that Admin Elamine was kind of showing that he can play as a freshman and doing things that were pretty interesting. So here he is just on the catch, hits a nice three, and keeps it moving from there. So we're going to take a look right here. And, in the beginning of the game, Utah State was up the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game, but pretty quickly the things that are concerning about them became apparent. And this is just, you can see a bigger body getting a position and getting an easy bucket. He slips behind the defense there. I'm not going to blame Drake Allen right here. It's a tough cover, but MJ Collins is no match for the bigger guy inside number 39 for San Diego State. And Utah State gets out to a lead in this game in the first couple of minutes that they could never really recover from or continue to capture. Nice block there by El Amin. He gets out here in transition. If you're watching him right here, it's good tape for him, at least the first couple minutes. Catch, jab step, pull up three. A little bit of Tony Snell, the old New Mexico forward, in that shot. Don't get it twisted though. Tony Snell is one of the best catch and shoot players in the country when he was playing at New Mexico, and he had many years in the NBA. So Utah State up 3 now, and this is just more admin El Amin for Utah State, really able to score, and they're going to need someone to, an additional scorer besides false 11 MJ Collins and the occasional Drake Allen. Soft touch there. Picks up his dribble off the left hand, his offhand, so that shows good ball control. Granted, there was only one dribble, but still, it's a nice shot. And Utah State is up 5 early. So these are just some defensive breakdowns that occurred throughout the game for Utah State in the half court. It was a little bit concerning. So you got Guaf there with the and one, but look at this play. It's nothing too sophisticated, but it kind of gets them out of their, kind of beats them. So you got Guaf there setting the flare screen, and then he just slips. And Templin doesn't even, I don't know if it's a miscommunication or what, but that's just too easy. You can't let that happen. And these types of things, along with missed box outs, happen all game. And now, granted, like San Diego State is one of the best home arenas in the country. I've never been there, but I've seen San Diego State play live a number of times over the years, over the past few years, in neutral court environments. And their fans always travel well anywhere on the West Coast for sure. So I can only imagine what a game at Viejas Arena is like. So I do want to factor that in. But at the same time, you got to call it as it is. And Utah State did beat San Diego State earlier this year. I think San Diego State was a little undermanned with some injuries, but I do want to, say that. So what do we have here? You got Perryman pushing the brakes. You can still see Utah State trying to push the pace and staying within themselves. It's a tie game halfway through the first half, but the bigger and that's just another defensive breakdown. Like, how does this happen? How does Farrah Compton get behind? Who is this? That's Perryman. That's a freshman. So Compton is just right here, and how does he lose track of him? Who is he focused on? There's 2 guys here, and it's just an easy bucket. And in that game against Nevada that we saw Utah State play, they had a couple things like this, but not as many. But Nevada also didn't have the ball handlers that San Diego State has to kind of space the floor, so it makes you wonder if Nevada was able to get into the teeth of Utah State's defense the way San Diego State was, or if they just had more of a perimeter presence, more threats on the perimeter, would these things have happened? It's possible that they would have in terms of Utah State's defensive breakdowns in this game. So you got Utah State bringing up the ball here. And El Amin gets called for a travel. So this is kind of, it shows how raw he kind of still is. Look at this. He's not in a triple threat position. He's getting a little, he gets a little flustered, and then he loses his balance and travels. So that's just a young player, needs to improve his balance, his strength, his lower body, position or posture, whatever. The word's escaping me, but it's pretty obvious what I'm trying to say there. spin move by Falslev. This is all season long. If you watch Mason Falslev play, any game really, you will see him do a move like this always, and it's really nice to watch. He's in his bag and is something that's been effective for him. Another defensive breakdown here. So they're going zone, right? Utah State is now in a zone. And he gets a wide open three. How is this possible? They didn't run any sophisticated action here at all, or any action really. So you got Elamine here. They reverse the ball. They do have this guy open in a dunker spot, but whatever. We're not gonna dissect that and fault Utah State. That's nothing they can really do there. But how does Elamine end up here and leave this guy wide open? It doesn't really add up for me. Is there some sort of defensive communication breakdown or issue? So here he's running where? What is happening here? And he's pointing like maybe he was thinking that number 12 Falslev is going to go here and he was going to pop out here. I don't know. And now what just happened there? That's just a defensive breakdown. Perhaps we don't know from the outside what the call was or whatever, but that was just didn't look right there. So this is good. It gives me confidence that Drake Allen can handle pressure, even if he's not shooting it efficiently or posting the best box score. It is good that he's able to handle pressure. And that's just a nice instinct by Templin there. It's an interesting play call. One of the few set plays that I saw Utah State run this game. So they kind of have a decoy screen there. MJ Collins sets a screen for Falslev. He comes on, then he sets the screen actually for Collins. And Templin trying to get him a shot. Clearly that's not open. Now he's trying to go the other way. And then, he has a defender on his back kind of sealed out. And Templin's able to just make a play. Not sure if that's the intention of the play, but at least it worked out for them there. So you have a possession here by San Diego State. Only a 6-point game. About to be at the under 4 timeout. But another defensive breakdown that's just unacceptable if you're trying to be a winning team this time of the year. I'm not saying Utah State isn't or can't be, but in this game it was just... And there's Elamine again being at the center of it. So what happens here? They're in man-to-man. So what is happening here? How does he leave his man so open? I mean, is he worried about this guy getting into the lane? You have a bigger teammate here who can step in. Or did he think he can recover and close out quick enough? I don't really know, but maybe he thought he could recover and close out quick enough. Let's see that again. But what if he even pump fake there? You know what I mean? So I'm not going to fault him too much, but it's not the best defensive possession for Utah State. That's an and one. What kind of defense is that? This is kind of my fear. A bigger, more athletic, skilled, long player, quicker, just taking their man. This is just unacceptable. What was he think is going to be a pick and roll? So he tries to... I don't understand. What are you hedging towards your help defense there? For what reason? What is that accomplishing? This is just a pass and go, and he's not even in the gap, let alone attached to his man. That's not good. And this stuff is worrisome because it's almost fundamental. So that's why it's a little worrisome. San Diego State is up 10. Is there anything there that Utah State could have done better? I mean, I guess 32 could have... Trying to stunt and recover there? I don't know. I mean, why are you There's 2 seconds left in the half, brother. But it's okay. I mean, those things happen, and there's a tough shot. So this was nice for Admin Elamine. Good for his tape also. I think Bird thought it was over the back, but regardless, gets the rebound, goes up strong for a dunk. You got to like to see that if you're a Utah State fan. So Utah State trying to make something of it for the second half. That's just, what are you doing telegraphing that pass, Drake Allen? What are you doing, brother? Like, it's almost like he's trying to go for a shot, and then how in the world is Mason Falslev his next read on this? How? In what world? Oh, I guess his guy cut off his field of vision and he didn't see Bird behind him. I guess. I don't know. It's not the best pass, though. Nice finish by Miles Bird. So you see that MJ Collins wasn't able to get going so much in this game. Same with Mason Falslev. But I don't think that's why they're really losing this game. Yeah, because San Diego State is not the most offensively proficient team. And that's just clear if you watch them, right? They did hit a couple transition threes here that helped them, that maybe were a little bit uncharacteristic of them in a positive way for them. But even if your offense is lacking, Utah State has to be a little bit more locked in defensively. They definitely have the personnel to do it, regardless of the size, athleticism stuff I was talking about. So that's kind of the frustrating part if you're a Utah State supporter in this regard. And credit to San Diego State at the same time. So what do you have here? Utah State trying to press. Okay. I mean, what is that, brother? What are they in right now? Okay, so they're in man. Kind of tag off and switch. Okay, so Perryman, the freshman right here, you got to learn from this. I see you got a lot to consider, and you can see you're a little bit all over the place, but he's here. I guess I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough one. That's a tough one right there. You kind of got to be more locked into where people are on the court so you don't have easy putbacks, especially if you got Farrah Compton crashing from the three-point line. He's a power forward. Like, of course he's going to have an advantage. So they're down 18 now. Game definitely not with out of reach. Not in the Mountain West Conference. No game is out of reach when you're down 18 with 10 minutes left. Typically, it's not happening against most teams. But this is kind of where it gets put away. Tough shot and 1 4-point play. That 24 again. The respect, man. Nice shot. San Diego State, the length, handle the pressure well, and then they just get bodied. Utah State gets bodied in transition and 1. Just literally finishing through the smaller defender. And again, lack of size problem there. Just have a mismatch there. Guathon Falslev was playing in that area, and it doesn't work out for them. So this whole play really is created by Miles Bird. Like, look at that. Gets low on the drive, uses his NBA style length, spin move, collapse the D, and just dump it off. And that's a problem because that play could be replicated by numerous teams, across the country. And of course, no team is perfect, but you do have to call it like you see it because that's the only way to really examine the reality of what's going on. And San Diego State gets the win. And with all that being said, Utah State's still first in the Mountain West right now, even if tied record with San Diego State. But those are just some of the things that we saw this game.